Hi everyone, Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it is time for a review of the new Post Malone album, Hollywood's Bleeding. This is the newest full-length LP from singer-songwriter Post Malone, aka Austin Richard Post. Since blowing up in 2015 with the surprise hit single White Iverson, Posty has been one of the largest musical phenomena of this decade. I personally could not stand his music until recently either, as I think much of his breakthrough material is just bland, mellow trap crooning, and that's it. The August 26th mixtape, as well as Stoney, I really got nothing from either of them. However, I would argue that Post Malone really began to come into his own as a songwriter on his last full-length LP last year, Beer Bongs and Bentleys. And yes, it is a flawed album. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it's on this project that Post really begins to hone his talents for penning these moody, braggadocious, soaring pop anthems over trap instrumentals. Also showing a knack for being able to pull off low-key bangers such as Rockstar, as well as powerful ballads like on Better Now. Now, I guess Post would end up giving us a taste or an idea as to where he would be headed next with some tracks he'd be sprinkling out there over the next year. We have the very so-so Sunflower featuring Sway Lee off of the Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack that, yeah, it's just a very high-gloss pop rap blend. It's not mind-blowing by any means. There's also the very brief and mild party cut Wow, which I'm also surprised made it onto this record considering how underwhelming it is as a party song, though I do like the very slick snap beat attached to the song. The first teaser I loved going into this record was actually Goodbyes, featuring Young Thug, a track that once again showed Post's talent for transferring classic pop songwriting fundamentals over some trap aesthetics. Chorus on this track is stellar, verses are tragic, Young Thug's feature goes way harder than it needed to, but I will take it. The song that got me really truly worried going into this record though was Circles, which sees Post attempting to revive some really bad, dead indie pop vibes a la Foster the People or Peter, Bjorn, and John. You've got a danceable beat, some hollow bass, jangly guitar. It's just so cheap and formulaic and dead for a reason. And I don't know what's worse. Is it the lyrics, which are trash and lame on this track, or is it the vocal processing, which makes Post's voice sound fake as hell, as there is this violent vibrato on his voice that just makes it sound so ridiculously shaky. I'm running in circles. And you hate to see it, because the tune at the core of it is actually pretty solid, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. So given all these tracks, I had no idea where this album was going to be, what shape it was going to take. The feature list made things even more confusing. Future, Halsey, Meek Mill, Lil Baby, Ozzy Osbourne of Black Sabbath fame, Travis Scott DaBaby, SZA, what's happening? But after finally listening to the entire album, it's difficult to sum up, I'll say that. In one breath, it's a good thing that Post Malone seems like he no longer has any limitations to the kind of art he wants to make, the kinds of songs he wants to put on his record. Artistic freedom on this one, people. Artistic freedom. But also, Hollywood's Bleeding lacks vision severely. I like that Post seems like he is taking some risks on this one. That is cool, but it leads to as many triumphs as it does messes. Like the title track, the intro track, which has this horrendous breakdown toward the end that is totally unnecessary, does not complement the track at all, a failed attempt at really opening this record up with some heavy and thick drama. We also have the horrendously uninspired Saint Tropez, where it's pretty much a Post Malone song by the numbers. This track would have easily been a total dud off of his last record, especially with the forgettable beat and the completely substanceless lyrics. The only likable quality about this track, in my view, were the silly ad-libs. The song I Know, in my view, is also painfully average for Post. Similarly underwhelmed by hearing him team up with SZA on the song Staring at the Sun. Not that I thought that SZA's inclusion into the track was all that bad, it's not, but the track is so sweet, melodramatic, and pristine aesthetically, I get the sensation that this track was also produced and intended to land on a soundtrack of some sort, but it didn't actually make the cut. Not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination, but it is another average track we didn't need and contributes to the record's overall lack of cohesion. Most of the questionable spots on this record, though, aren't because of a lack of imagination or just sheer boredom. Mostly it is bad ideas and unnecessary risks, like the track 1,000 Bad Times, which is another indie-inspired nightmare with some of the worst lyrics on the album. Said you needed a ride, but you wanted my car. Without that face, girl, you wouldn't get far. I really like you, despite who you are. You see me on TV, you know I'm a star. You say you don't know me, but I know that's false. I'll pay the price, girl, whatever it costs. You've made my life so hard, but that's what gets me off. The Lil Baby feature on the back end of On the Road sticks out like a sore thumb. Barely complements the narrative of the track lyrically, it sounds awful melodically, and once again, Lil Baby, totally boring. Young Thug clone, unnecessary. Thank you. It's sad because this track is actually one of the better songs on the entire record. The Meek Mill verse adds so much. I was also loving the themes on this track of being a lone wolf and not having people around you that you can trust. We also have the very weird Internet, which is a track all about not wanting to use the internet, essentially being fine with missing out on all the stuff happening over social media, which is cool, and I think give us a few years' time and normalized, we are going to see tracks where artists are singing or making statements about the overstimulation of the information age. But Post isn't exactly addressing the issue. The song is mostly about IG models and Insta love and privacy and internet drama. I slightly admire the track for being as extravagant as it is with its strings and its soaring vocals, but it's much to do about nothing. Fuck the internet and you could quote that. So I do have some pretty major criticisms of this record, yes, but it's not all bad. There are some great highlights packed into this thing too at various points. We have the sweet and bouncy banger Enemies featuring DaBaby. It's smooth, it's catchy as hell, the beat is colorful, it's melodic. Post also has one of his best choruses here. DaBaby is a great pick, even though he's very trendy as a feature spot right now. I think his inclusion into this track was really good. The song Allergic is one of the few overtly rock-inspired tracks on this thing that I actually think came out stupendous. Allergic! We have these grimy bass lines and romping drum beats, a lot of reverb. It almost sounds a little inspired by the first Drums record, but with a bit more darkness and sadness and edge that you typically get out of a Post Malone song. The song Die For Me, featuring Future and Halsey, managed to be one of the best on the record despite me not anticipating much coming out of it. But both Future and Halsey on this track are punching over their weight, not only with Halsey going kind of psycho, finding out about women and her man's phone on her verse, but also Future, who hits every note that Post sets for him in his performance, not only in the hook, which he decides to sing, but in his dynamic verse and this little falsetto breakdown moment too that's really entertaining. You die for me, you die for me, you die for me. Yes, the chorus on this thing is a bit much, but I read the song mostly like a pop trap equivalent to a soap opera, with Post singing about getting sent to jail and being betrayed. The most amazing feature on this record, though, in my opinion, actually goes to Ozzy. It goes to Ozzy, where the Prince of Darkness can be heard singing some real Post Malone vocal riffs, as it is clear that Post Malone had written at least some of this chorus out. Take what you want from me, take what you need from me. I love the snappy, dirty trap drums on this track, the arpeggios coming out of that acoustic guitar. The trippy Travis Scott feature toward the back end is nice, and the guitar shredding on the bridge is incredible. It's a grand statement, an amazing crossover that only an artist like Post Malone could have conjured. Another weirdly standout song on the record is Myself, which actually features a co-songwriting credit from none other than Josh Tillman, aka Father John Misty. And it's a very glamorous vintage piano-backed ballad with the instrumentation sounding a little muddy, kind of washed out. It's dark, it's distant, It's like much of everything else in Post Malone's world aesthetically. It's still a great tune though, and I think shows a lot of heart from Post Malone on the vocal performance end of things. But still, as much as I can pick certain tracks of this record out and say, hey, this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great, this thing is still very much a mixed bag. At this point, I still consider Post Malone to be a unique voice with considerable talent, but that talent is not being put to good use. It's being ineffectively applied across this very inconsistent project. Of course, I would love to see him branch out more into the future. The Ozzy and Travis Scott track on here is one of many examples here of him really experimenting in a way that no other artist in the hip-hop or pop landscape is and succeeding at it. But in the future, I just hope all of this occurs on a project that isn't such a hodgepodge. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video for you to check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Post Malone, forever.